So, what is your story related to your voice? Or more specifically, what's the story that you tell others, or even the story that you tell yourself about your voice? And how have you used your voice to shape your life according to what's true for you? Or, in the case of a lot of us, how do you wish that you'd used your voice, or wish that you could use your voice to shape your life according to what is true for you? And then, also importantly, what are the forces, whether they are external or internal, that have shaped those choices, that have shaped your choice in how you express or how you reclaim, or maybe whether you remain silent? This too is an act of the voice, in that you are using your free will to determine your path. All of us are incredibly unique and fascinating in the way we follow the thread in our journey of the voice. And I would wager that whatever part of you responded to those questions that I asked just now, however small the whisper, there's a part of you that knows that your story is worthy, that it's worth telling, and it's also worth hearing and witnessing. And I can tell you that there are people, upon hearing your story, who would find themselves in your words. And this is why these stories must be told, so that we know we are not alone, so that we know that we are unique in the way that we choose to use our voice, but the fact that we have a choice, and the fact that it's so important for us to use this choice, this is shared. This is shared amongst all of us. And we all have stories of how we choose to take up the space that is ours in the way that we want, in the way that we feel we need. Or perhaps we have stories about how we chose not to take up the space that's ours because it was not worth the risk. Perhaps it was not worth the price that we would need to pay. And so we chose to remain silent. We chose not to take up our space. And this story, too, should be told, is worth hearing. And then, of course, those of us who embody the feminine, well, all of us embody the feminine in terms of energy. We all know what it is to shrink, to negotiate, to remain small, so that we are less threatening in our power, and so that we are physically or emotionally safe. We all know what this is as well. And the reality is, these voices matter. The voice of the feminine matters and has such power. And that's why I wanted to create this podcast, which is called Her Outside Voice. And it's all about what it is when we embody the voice of the feminine and express or reclaim or even choose silence. But we use the voice to determine our path, to exercise our free will. And what are the stories of all of us? And I've come to lovingly call it a collective memoir of the feminine for this reason. Because the hope is that this podcast will gather people from all around the world as listeners and also as interviewees, as guests on the podcast, because it will be an interview series where each time a different beautiful human comes on to share their story about using the voice and how it manifests in their life. And the reality is, when we tell these stories of the voice to each other, we amplify the moments of triumph. We share the weight of the challenges that we encounter when we use the voice. We grieve together when taking up space costs us something dear, which it does so very often. And most importantly, we shine our collective light on what scares us, so that rather than carrying that fear alone, we instead find ourselves listening to the story of another and saying, "Me too." And you? Because we are such beautiful mirrors for each other. And when we see or hear about another occupying the space that is hers in the way that she chooses, even if our choice in how we use our voice would not be the same, the fact that we have a choice, we are reminded of this when we see her example. And this too is why we must tell these stories. It's not to copy the life of another or to choose in the same way, but it's the fact that we can choose. At least some of us can. There are others of us who don't have choice, who don't have free will. And these stories too must be told. And I think it's an important question of our time. How do we who do have choice, who do have free will, who do have a voice, uplift and hold space and tell the stories of those who don't? This is an important question. I don't have the answer to it, but my hope is that we can explore together. We only have reason to fear when we are in separation, so we do this together. We go together down this path. And together we will create and uplift a living record of collective witnessing in podcast form. The first episode drops this week. I surely hope you will join us on this very important journey. Much love. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
This is her outside voice.